So the Lager Projekt is honestly a labor of love.
Most brewers will universally accept and agree that brewing lagers is the hardest thing to do correctly.
There's no margin for error in the beer.
This one you don't get a chance to make adjustments. Like, this is like, do it right.
And if even the slightest thing goes wrong, poor fermentation, infection based off of transfer, it finishing too sweet, it finishing way too dry and bitter, it just not tasting like a lager, not having that crisp, clean, refreshing like bite to it. I mean, God, the possibilities are endless, and you're investing 6 weeks of time.
We could look around in 2 months and be like, it's not good enough.
When you have that tank cold crash, all of a sudden there's a power failure, the lights go out.
It's getting dumped.
But we're gonna do it.
Hey guys, my name is Liz. I'm the marketing manager here at Tailgate Brewery, and today we're going to take you through the life cycle of one beer from start to finish. We make 200 unique beers every year here at Tailgate Brewery, and this week we're launching Lager Projekt, which is a brand new series of traditional German lagers. We have a ton of team members here at Tailgate who collaborate on every single one of these beers. We're going to take you through the life cycle of one beer in particular, a Czech Pilsner, which is the first in our Lager Projekt series, and meet everyone who helps out with it.
We came a long way, that's what the song say. And I could do all things, I could do all things. Yeah, I could do all things, yeah. We came a long way, that's what the song say. And I could do all things, I could do all things. I can do all things, yeah. I'm not afraid of the moment, I'm not afraid I can't hold it. I gotta show 'em, gotta get up in the morning. I gotta do it for Kobe, lately I'm zoning. Lately I know where I'm going, taking whatever control is.
Lager Projekt at core is an effort for us to make pure, clean, crisp lagers.
It really stemmed as the brainchild from Wes, the owner. I believe it was mainly his idea and passion to want to get this thing rolling out.
It was something I dreamed of, and then the first time I ever talked to Wes, we kind of talked about the idea of wanting to do that, and it was kind of just a match made in heaven from that point on.
One of the things that Chris and I immediately clicked on when we met was I told him, one of our goals was we wanted to go up more taprooms, and I was just kind of rattling off the different types that we wanted to do, and I said, probably the most important one when I find the right space is going to be a lager house. I remember, as we were talking, I was just kind of rambling off, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do a lager house, I want to do this, and he just interrupted and was like, no way. And I was like, which one? And he goes, lager. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, I don't have it right now, but we're going to.
As soon as we officially said we were going to do this project, I created a spreadsheet with every single lager, basically, that I know of on the planet. The average person here in Nashville's probably never had Australian sparkling ale. Well, let's do it.
My name is Ryan Brucci. I'm the brand manager here at Tailgate Brewery. My main function here at Tailgate, or one of my main functions, is supply and demand. So I will help coordinate our production team with our sales team and our taproom teams on brewing beers, packaging beers, and getting those projects to our guests. So the Lager Projekt is one of the items in that portfolio, so to speak. Lagers are really cool because we're using a special yeast for it, that is lager yeast. Hundreds of thousands of different strains of yeast and different styles, but generally speaking, there's only two types of beer. There's ales or lagers.
The mass beer market has created the distinction of light beer is lager, craft is ale, and that's not true. Beer comes two ways, lager and ale. And then there's a lot of different categories underneath it. What Lager Projekt will do for us is we'll have a lot of opportunities to showcase these different types of lagers.
Lagers are defined by using that lager yeast, which is colder, takes longer, and when you hear people talk about lagers, the one word that they use the most is clean.
The idea of just actually making traditional lagers, it's something I've always wanted to do, and then just take the knowledge of everything I've learned throughout my brewing career to put out the best traditional lagers, and then just keep that line going, because the amount of lagers that we can do is endless.
I feel confident we know what we're doing. We do enough planning on the front side, and when we all go in with the right intention on this stuff, brewing beer technically is the minimum of what we're supposed to do as a professional brewery. And I think that that's a pretty reasonable standard for us to hold ourselves to. professional brewers find lagers to be, the real challenge of, their expertise.
When you really break it down to the people doing the, more or less the same formula as us, that number gets smaller and smaller.
The right way is kind of normalized to, this type of beer, these types of products kind of originated out of different parts of Europe. Lagers in particular came from like the Pilsen region of like the Czech Republic. There's a lot of influence in different German and Bavarian parts of the world.
There's not a lot of ingredients to them. So we're speaking mostly from like German traditional beer styles, the purity laws, where there's only 4 ingredients. So it's water, grain, hops, and yeast. It was actually inked, I think like it's 1692 or something like that in Germany, where, hey, to classify, hey, this is our terroir, this is how we would define beer in Germany. Anything that you make that isn't this is not beer. That's for tax purposes, from my understanding, and I won't even take a stab at rights and bot. But at any rate, those purity laws mean that you can only make beer with 4 ingredients. So it's not dissimilar from the old-fashioned beer-flavored beer series we do, where there's no adjuncts. So you're not going to see like a beer with peanut butter or orange added to it. You're looking at something where you're just getting the pure representation or expression of grain, hops, water, yeast, and then very, very slow and tedious and careful management of the fermentation schedule.
So all made 100% Weinmann malts, everything straight from Germany, really following like the Reinheitsgebot like idea of like German purity laws, but completely different grain bill profiles, and then a completely different hop bill as well. So even though you're gonna look at them, they're gonna look pretty similar in color. The Czech might be like a tinge just darker. They're gonna be a completely different drinking experience.
Matt Lum, and I am lead brewer. What do I do? I don't know what I do.
I really just oversee the fermentation, and then just ensure that the quality is there come packaging time.
The biggest difference is in the fermentation. So we can turn an ale around in about 10 days, 10 to 14 days fermentation time. We've done the brew process, and it's just going into a cold tank, a cellar. In this case, we're talking fermenter specifically. So it will go into that fermenter, and an ale we can turn in about 10 to 14 days. Lagers are slower. So the way liken yeast for most people to help understand is it's a live microorganism. So maybe think of it like an enzyme almost, where it's got certain wants, desires, needs. So lager yeast like to be down at colder temperatures, like at like a 38-degree range, whereas our ales can go as high as like 68 or even higher degrees Fahrenheit. So the lagers are colder and then a lot slower. Those are the 2 main differentiators. Lager yeast is also bottom fermenting yeast. So if you were to look at the entire tank that we have, you would see the lager floating on the bottom.
Lager yeast is bottom fermenting versus ale, which is top, which means that the yeast has to make its way to the top at some point. Long story short, it's less stressful for the yeast to go in a horizontal tank because it doesn't have to go as high. So it just keeps the yeast nice and happy and helps not throw off any off flavors.
And then what else you see, the first tanks to the left of these big boys are our lager tanks. They're going to be the newer fun things that we have, producing some pretty quality Pilsners, lagers, and Belgian styles so far.
So like it can sit for just 2 months, and if the fermentation, if we don't follow our fermentation schedule, if we don't do like what's called step fermentation, and like sometimes we'll even make a beer and we'll just start adjusting by temperature by 1 degree a day, whatever that process might be, we could look around in 2 months and be like, it's not good enough.
So the Lager Projekt, to me, is really cool, taking some traditional methods of making beer, bringing them to Tailgate. It's the Lager Projekt. The Lager Projekt includes things like Pilsners, and Pilsner is one of my favorite beers to drink. So right now we have a Czech Pilsner and a German Pilsner in the lager tanks right now, lagering. They're going to be packaged sometime in the very near future. So my role in that is pretty much what I do with every other beer, which is monitor them during their fermentation, which those beers that are in the tank right now are done fermenting. So they are at a point where we're going to harvest some of the yeast out of them and have that yeast for our next brews that we're doing. And then after I harvest some yeast, I'm going to centrifuge those out because we want those Pilsners to be clear. That's definitely a style that needs to be clear.
If you look up the BJCP, the Brewers Judges Certification Program, I think, if you look that up and you look under the category of Czech Pils, you'll find as you're drinking it that it is in line with aroma, flavor, clarity. Like you can just go through the guidelines and it'll be true to form.
So my role here is I am seller. I also help out with our packaging and canning line as well. Day to day kind of changes and depends on our schedule that we have going. Typically I'll check in with the seller team, see what the need there needs to be. That could be helping out with centrifuging, that could be helping out with kegging, keg cleaning, keg washing, anything from that side of the business. So I'll also help out with the canning operations. If we have canning going on that day, I'll assist Guy in anything that's from setup to fully functioning the operation, executing the whole canning run itself.
Every beer we package, I design the labels for, or the printed cans, regardless. I am Drew the Lord. I'm Drew Lord. I'm the art director. Anything that could be dropped into the category of art, regardless of if it's art or not. If I use a brush, I'm probably going to do it. Usually it's a sit down between me and Dee Dee, me and Wes, a combination of the two, Ryan, yada yada, and we come up with a concept. I get on the computer, start coming up with something, bounce it off of them, and it's a back and forth until we get the label that we're looking for. So with Lager Projekt, we thought, you know, lagers, correct lagers they're clean, they're crisp, they're to the point, there's no frills, so we wanted something that was just sleek, clean, crisp, and to the point. My initial thought was I found this pattern and was like, ooh, this kind of reminds me of the Matrix. And you know, you've got the Matrix, all those numbers, they got to be lined up to create this universe, and you got to have a lot of numbers lined up correctly to create the lager. So that was my initial thought with that. I don't know if it really makes sense, but a lot of my ideas, they make sense in my head.
So Lager Projekt, my role kind of comes on the back end. I like to say after a lot of the hard part where they get to brew it, I kind of get the fun part. My name is Liz Terry. I'm the marketing manager at Tailgate Brewery. So anything online comes to me. Reviews, emails, calls, I handle all the social media, everything on the website, direct emails. I help with our Mug Club program. So really any sort of membership or loyalty or really anything on the internet. For Lager Projekt specifically, there's gonna be a lot of education about you know, this specific beer. It's a brand new series. So there's a lot that we have to do to kind of market that, to let people know that they can expect a lot more traditional lagers and kind of those more pure old world beers that we're really excited about. Kind of getting people to understand that this is an ongoing series and they're gonna expect a lot more of these beers from us. So that's anything from opening up pre-sale for our Mug Club members to obviously posting the photos online, taking the social media photos, kind of reaching out to local, you know, Nashville craft beer nerds who are gonna be stoked about this release.
It doesn't just stop at the production of the beer. It doesn't just stop at how long we're going to ferment it or, you know, what temperatures or any of that kind of stuff. It goes all the way to serving and drinking.
It's a Luker faucet. It's L-U-K-R faucet, and I had to do a lot of research on it because I really didn't know what it was, you know?
We really wanted to display this. We wanted to showcase how careful we were. You know, the highest quality imported malts, the highest quality imported hops, you know, traditional German yeast, lager yeast. We want to go ahead and showcase that the whole step of the process. So not only in the packaging and the branding for the Lager Projekt, but also is to when you have the experience in the tap room and you get to enjoy it.
We teach our taproom team, do not dip the beer in the faucet on the draft wall. We're going to, you know, it's poured with the faucet in the whole way, which introduces a whole new cleaning standard that we have to keep, and like just more challenges. But again, if you're gonna make all the efforts to make the beer the right way, you should at least pour it the right way.
I'm Andrew Gonzalez, maintenance manager at Tailgate Brewery. It's a completely very fancy faucet. You know, if you ask me, it was really delicate, you know, getting it. And when we installed it, it was like, oh, this is awesome. You know, these things are really cool. Just the way it pours out. You actually have to stick the tip of the faucet into the beer, which normally you don't do that. You pour away from the glass, and the way you pour it, the way it produces air that pushes into the beer at a certain pressure, it comes out, and then you fully open it, and then it kind of gives it that nice head to where it's a special lager. So we had to do a little altering to make it fit exactly with our the way our setups with the shafts that come out of the wall on our draft system. So I had to add a little bit of different gaskets, change it up a little bit, and then also putting that, you know, the American connections, because it's completely different from where they come from. We got a good tight seal on all that, so it worked perfect, and we got the beer running great out of the faucets.
Personally, it's the beer I love to drink, so selfishly I'm pretty excited about it, but I really am excited to talk to our audience more about those more technical aspects.
It's not a very rewarding process when you get it wrong, but when you do, it's fucking awesome.
A good, clean, traditional, executed beer is just downright delicious. It comes out excellent when you truly take the time to do it right.
So we're really happy how Lager Projekt turned out. We're hoping that everybody comes down, tries what we have on tap now, pick up some six-packs, and we're really looking forward to what it has in store in the future.
Hey everyone, you've reached the end of the video. My name is Matt Lum. I am lead brewer for Tailgate Brewery. Totally forgot what you just told me. All right, please like, share, and subscribe.